Hello again, and a very warm welcome back to Sunday Thoughts from Ardtrea Desertcreat. Today is the 5th Sunday in Lent, and also the Sunday after St. Patrick's Day. I hope that some of you got the opportunity to look at our little St. Patrick's Day video that we put up on Wednesday night. If you haven't done that, it's about, 17 or 18 minutes long. It's got some lovely live music and some thoughts. So you can see that on YouTube if you haven't already watched it. I want to say special thanks to our musicians, to Tom and Maria and Denise for beautiful music. And we're going to have some more instrumental music today from Tom and Maria. There's just one announcement this morning, and that is that we now have the go-ahead to open our churches with a cautious return to Sunday worship from Good Friday. I've decided to open on Easter Sunday rather than Good Friday, but very importantly, note two things. First of all, different times for Easter Sunday. Ardtrea will be 10 o'clock and Desertcreat 11 o'clock. We'll keep the services short still under the current circumstances to about 35 minutes or so. But if you're hoping to come along, if you could let us know, that would be really good, because we need to make sure we don't have too many who turn up on Easter Day. So we're really looking forward to being together again for worship on Easter Day. 10 o'clock Ardtrea, 11 o'clock Desertcreat. Don't forget to bring your mask, and hopefully we'll see some of you here. A few years back, I did this series of Sunday morning talks on the shape of Christianity in Ireland. And when I use the word shape, I mean how our culture and history and all those things has shaped how we do the Jesus following. Because how we do it here has some things in common, obviously, with other Christians throughout the world. But wherever you go, there'll be huge influences from our culture and history and past traditions. And I was inspired one morning in church while we were singing the hymn, "Be Thou My Vision." And I was thinking to myself, there's something about that hymn that just works. And it's more than the fact that it's old or familiar. There's something about the words and the thoughts and the heartbeat of the song, the way it resonates and comforts and stirs. There's something about it that feels just right to people who have grown up on this island. We reckon the hymn dates back to the 6th century, to in and around the year 500 and something, written somewhere in a monastery. And so amazingly, it's about 1,500 years old. We still sing it. We still use those words, and it still works. Our reading for today is one of the readings for St. Patrick's Day, and from the New Testament book of Acts, from chapter 16, beginning at verse 6. Paul and his companions travelled through the region of Phrygia and Galatia, having been kept by the Holy Spirit from preaching the word in the province of Asia. When they came to the border of Mysia, they tried to enter Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus would not allow them to. So they passed by Mysia and went down to Troas. During the night, Paul had a vision of a man of Macedonia standing and begging him, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." After Paul had seen the vision, we got ready at once to leave for Macedonia, concluding that God had called us to preach the gospel to them. God called St. Patrick to be a spreader of the gospel, or the good news, on the island of Ireland. There were Christians here in Ireland just a few hundred years after Jesus walked the earth. We reckon it was about the year 431 that a man called Palladius came here. He was a Christian leader, married with a daughter. He didn't stay long, and after him came St. Patrick, who taught this new faith, baptized new converts, ordained new leaders for this new local movement that was taking shape, the church in Ireland. 1,500 years later, we are still part of that same church that Jesus called into being, but was eventually, through people like Patrick, brought here and grown here, and has become part of our DNA. It began locally, I suppose, with travellers passing through different towns and villages, telling the story of a man called Jesus who had lived and died and risen again in a far-off part of the world. He claimed to be the Son of God. He claimed to be the Son of the God who was the creator of all, the God of the sea, the God of the sun, the God of the moon, and the God of the stars. And this story of Jesus and his love and compassion and call to follow him, this was literally the gospel, or the good news. So local people listened. Some of them responded. They began to learn and form little groups. They built high crosses outside with a circle representing the world and the cross representing God who loved the world and gave himself for us. And before they had church buildings, we reckon they probably met for worship outdoors, maybe standing under and around those high crosses. And some of those things are still standing. There's one not too far from here at Ardbow, and another beautiful one just a few minutes away at Donaghmore. So long ago, there were people here with this new faith forming small communities, listening to what Jesus taught, reading the letters of Paul, learning the Hebrew poetry and the Psalms, and they were figuring out together what it meant to follow Jesus, how to speak and live and be bearers of good news to the world around us. We're going to have a little music now. We're featuring instrumentals today from Tom and Maria. And here's a beautiful melody called The Dark Isles. What makes this morning's topic interesting is that wherever you go in the world, Christianity has a different shape. Yes, there will be things that you recognize, but there will be local cultural influences. So go to some of the Greek islands on holiday, visit lovely little churches, and you'll find bearded priests dressed in black, candles everywhere, and all kinds of very colourful, sometimes outdoor festivals at times like Easter and Christmas. Go to Russia and you'll discover even more impressively bearded priests, unique art called icons depicting the gospel story, originally painted to be visual aids for people who couldn't read. Go to the United States, you'll find the influence of people like Billy Graham. You'll find Southern Baptists, televangelists, a crystal cathedral. Come back to England, you'll find quaint parish churches, the Book of Common Prayer, choirs and chants and robed clergy. But years ago, when it all started on this fair isle, we had our own unique Celtic way of being Christian. We had our own way of thinking and creating and doing and worshipping, following Jesus on this island that the Romans called Hibernia, the land of eternal winter, the Dark Isle. Here then are a few interesting marks of those early Christians from what we know of them. First of all, they had a real reverence for the creation. We've been wrecking our planet for a long time, taking more than we give back. And the result has been that our whole environment where we live and move and have our being has been put under stress. And there is cause for concern. But before the Christian message came here, people had this sense that the earth was important. They knew the importance of the sun and the changing seasons. They had this sense there was something special around them. But when Christianity came here, people started looking at creation through the eyes of faith. They could sense God's presence in birdsong, in the sound of the water. They could see his handiwork in the night sky. They would read the words of the Psalms, the heavens declare the glory of God. And they had a new way of looking and appreciating the world around them. Those early Irish Christians also had a really strong sense of place. They sensed when they were somewhere that was dark. They sensed when they were somewhere that was holy. And they called those places thin places, where the membrane between heaven and earth was thinner than usual. And it was on those places that they would put up their high crosses and eventually build their places of worship, places where they sensed God's presence in a special way. Hospitality was really important to those early Irish Christians. And the Bible actually talks about hospitality as a spiritual gift, a God-given ability. And we in our country are good at it. You know, we do cakes and buns and tea probably better than anybody else. But the early Christians practiced hospitality. They showed care for travelers. They brought in people who needed accommodation. They shared what they had generously. Their daily prayer was based around the position of the sun in the sky. When I was at college in Dublin, we were expected to be at chapel normally 3 times a day, morning, tea time, and late at night. The early Irish Christian, though, would stop for prayer about 6 times a day. They were putting into practice something from the book of Psalms, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. The name of the Lord is to be praised. And so they took that literally. They prayed together when they wakened, and they gave thanks before meals. They prayed together through the day, and then last thing at night, before sleep. And the last thing, those early Irish Christians were mad, keen missionaries. People from our wee country got into small boats and set sail into the unknown with one purpose in mind: to be bearers of the good news, to bring that Jesus story literally to all the world, as Jesus called his followers to do. So people like Brendan the Navigator, people like Colin Bannis from Bangor, Colm Kill from Derry, had Christian faith that they lived, but they had this really burning desire to pass it on and to literally take it into all the world. And off they went. God still calls his people to be bearers of good news, this story of God's love and goodness and amazing grace. Let's pray together. Lord, no words of ours can describe you. No thoughts of ours can hold you. No actions of ours can control you. You are utterly beyond us. Your greatness, sovereignty, and power simply cannot be imagined. We praise you, mighty Lord, for the demonstration of your authority in every facet of creation. Everything that is because of you. Everything that we see, hear, touch, and examine is because you have made it so. That we can think and plan and choose is because you intended it so. That we can live and love and praise is because you've meant it to be so. Everywhere we look, everything we hear and everything we see affirms your glory, sings your praises, and declares that you are worthy. There is no God like you. There is no God besides you. You alone are the Lord. And we, your people, bring you our praises.